March 21st is not just another date on your calendar. It is not an ordinary sunrise followed by an ordinary sunset. In the spirit, March 21st stands like a boundary line drawn across time itself. And the warning is clear: time is almost gone. This is not symbolic language. This is not poetic exaggeration. This is an urgent heavenly alert. Archangel Michael, the warrior and protector, is sounding a warning that must not be ignored. If you are hearing this right now, it is because heaven has allowed this message to reach you before a critical shift takes place. And the weight of this warning carries consequences that cannot be reversed. There are moments in history when time compresses, when days feel heavier, when decisions carry greater consequences than usual. March 21st marks such a moment. It represents a spiritual threshold, a dividing line between delay and destiny, between obedience and loss. And what makes this moment so intense is that many do not even realize how close they are to missing something that cannot be reclaimed. Once certain doors close, they do not reopen. Once certain opportunities pass, they do not circle back. The spirit realm operates on divine timing, not human convenience. Archangel Michael does not speak lightly. Throughout sacred history, he appears in moments of battle, protection, and divine intervention. When he moves, it is because something serious is unfolding. This warning is not meant to create fear. It is meant to awaken you. There is a difference. Fear paralyzes. Awakening activates. And right now, you are being called to wake up before March 21st arrives with a finality that many are unprepared for. Time is almost gone. Those words carry weight. They mean that a window had been opened, but that window is closing. They mean that grace had been extended, but grace does not override responsibility. They mean that heaven has been patient, but patience does not last forever. There are consequences tied to inaction in this season, and they are not small consequences. They are the kind that echo through months, years, and even generations. Some losses cannot be undone. Some moments cannot be recreated. You may be wondering why this date matters so deeply. Why March 21st? Because in the unseen realm, cycles are shifting. Assignments are being activated. Protection is being repositioned. And those who are spiritually alert will sense that something has changed in the atmosphere. You may have felt restlessness, a stirring, a quiet pressure that you cannot explain. That is not coincidence. That is divine timing pressing against your comfort. This is why skipping this message would be dangerous. Not because of superstition, not because of fear tactics, but because ignorance does not shield you from consequence. When a warning is given and ignored, responsibility shifts. Archangel Michael's voice in this hour is not casual. It is direct. Watch this immediately. Pay attention. Do not delay. Because delay in this season is not neutral. It is costly. There are people who assume that there will always be another chance, another opportunity, another open door. But history shows us that divine moments are precise. They are measured. They are intentional. And once they pass, the spiritual landscape changes. March 21st is such a moment. A spiritual checkpoint. A line that separates those who respond from those who postpone. What makes the consequences irreversible is not punishment. It is alignment. When time shifts, alignment shifts. Protection aligns with obedience. Opportunity aligns with readiness. Covering aligns with attention. If someone chooses distraction, delay, or disbelief, they step out of alignment with what heaven is establishing. and realignment after a missed season can take far longer than the moment that was originally offered. You are not hearing this by accident. There are countless voices in the world competing for your attention. Yet this warning has reached you. It alone tells you something significant. Heaven does not shout without reason, and Archangel Michael does not raise an alarm without cause. There is movement in the spiritual realm that requires your awareness now, not later. March 21st stands before you like a gate, and gates do not remain open forever. The phrase "time is almost gone" is a final reminder before that gate shifts. You are being given clarity before consequence, insight before impact, awareness before activation. That is mercy. But mercy requires response. Ask yourself honestly, have you been delaying something you know you were meant to confront? Have you sensed a nudge to act, to change, to prepare, to step forward? Have you been telling yourself there is more time? That assumption is exactly what this warning is confronting, because what feels like later in your mind may already be now in the spirit. This is why this message must be watched immediately. Not tomorrow. Not when it feels convenient. The urgency is real. The tone is serious. And the outcome depends on what you choose next. March 21st is approaching whether you prepare or not. But preparation determines protection. Attention determines alignment. Obedience determines outcome. The warning has been released. The clock is moving. And the line between reversible and irreversible is closer than you think. Something has already started. Even if you cannot see it with your physical eyes, even if the world around you looks normal, the divine countdown has begun. March 21st is not approaching quietly in the spirit. It is advancing with purpose. The clock is ticking, not just in hours and minutes, but in spiritual positioning. This is not about panic. It is about precision. Heaven moves in appointed times, and when those times draw near, the atmosphere shifts. You may have sensed it. A subtle tension. A feeling that something is closing in. Conversations feel different. Opportunities feel fragile. Decisions seem heavier. That is because the grace period that once covered hesitation is narrowing. When time is almost gone, every moment becomes weightier. Every choice carries amplified consequence. This is what happens when a divine countdown begins. Archangel Michael's warning is not disconnected from this timing. He is a guardian of order, a defender in moments when battle intensifies. And make no mistake, there is spiritual movement happening right now. The unseen realm is not idle. There are forces pushing distraction, confusion, delay. Why? Because delay is one of the most subtle forms of disobedience. It does not look rebellious. It looks harmless. It whispers, "You can handle it tomorrow." But tomorrow is not promised in seasons like this. The countdown is not about fear of an event. It is about alignment before a shift. March 21st marks a spiritual threshold, and thresholds demand decision. When you stand at a threshold, you either step forward or remain behind. But remaining behind is still a decision. And once the threshold passes, standing still becomes falling behind. Right now, heaven is measuring response. Not perfection, not performance. Response. Are you paying attention? Are you spiritually awake? Or are you breaking off what feels uncomfortable? The truth is, many people miss divine moments because they mistake urgency for exaggeration. They assume that warnings are dramatic rather than deliberate. But divine warnings are acts of mercy. They are heaven's way of saying, prepare yourself. Align yourself. Do not be caught unaware. The spiritual atmosphere is tightening. This does not mean disaster is inevitable. It means adjustment is necessary. Think of it like a storm warning issued before heavy winds arrive. The wise do not mock the warning. They prepare. They secure what matters. They move into shelter. And preparation always looks excessive to those who are not paying attention. You might be asking, what exactly should I be doing? The first step is awareness. The second is action. Identify where you have been postponing obedience. Identify where you have ignored a nudge. Identify where you have grown comfortable in delay. The divine countdown exposes complacency. It reveals where you have assumed there is unlimited time. There is also something else happening in this countdown: separation. Not of people from people, but of priorities from distractions. The closer March 21st comes, the more clearly you will see what truly matters. Things that once seemed urgent will feel trivial, and things you once ignored will feel pressing. That clarity is a gift, but only if you respond to it. Hesitation is dangerous in this season because hesitation creates distance. Distance from protection. Distance from opportunity. Distance from alignment. And the longer someone hesitates, the harder it becomes to move when the moment demands it. That is why this message is reaching you now, not after March 21st, not when consequences are already unfolding. Now, if this message is speaking to you, do not keep it to yourself. There are others who are drifting, unaware that time is narrowing. Share this warning with someone who needs to hear it. Like this message as a sign that you are choosing awareness over indifference. Subscribe and become part of a community that refuses to sleep through divine timing. And in the comments, declare that you are ready. Your engagement is not just digital interaction. It is a public alignment with readiness. It signals that you are not ignoring the countdown. The divine countdown has begun, and the difference between loss and protection will come down to response. This is not about superstition. It is about sensitivity. It is about recognizing that when heaven sounds an alert, it is because something significant is at stake. March 21st is approaching with steady steps. The window is narrowing. The warning has been issued. The question is no longer whether time is moving. It is whether you will move with it. There is a trap being set right now, and it does not look like a trap. It does not feel dangerous. It does not announce itself with alarms or flashing lights. It comes quietly, softly. It sounds reasonable. It whispers, "You still have time." And that whisper has caused more spiritual loss than open rebellion ever could. This is the hidden danger before March 21st. This is the subtle snare that many are about to fall into if they do not awaken now. The enemy rarely attacks with obvious force when time is short. Instead, he introduces distraction. He introduces fatigue. He introduces doubt. He creates an atmosphere where urgency feels exaggerated and action feels unnecessary. You may even hear a voice in your mind saying, "This is dramatic. Nothing will really change." That thought is not random. It is strategic. Because if you believe nothing is at stake, you will do nothing differently. March 21st is a dividing line. And dividing lines always reveal who is alert and who is asleep. The hidden trap is not sin in its loudest form. It is delay disguised as wisdom. It is passivity disguised as patience. It is indifference disguised as peace. But there is a difference between waiting on divine timing and ignoring divine prompting. One is obedience. The other is avoidance. Right now, many are being lulled into spiritual drowsiness. The atmosphere feels almost normal. Life continues. Responsibilities continue. Routines continue, and that normalcy is the camouflage. Because when something critical approaches, the enemy hopes you will be too distracted by routine to recognize the shift. He hopes you will scroll, consume, and postpone while the window quietly narrows. The most dangerous words in this season are, "I'll deal with it later." Later is the illusion. Later is the bait. Later is the trap. Because when March 21st arrives, later will no longer exist in the same way. The opportunity that required your response will have shifted. The protection that required your alignment will have adjusted. And realignment after a missed moment is never as simple as obedience before it. There is also another layer to this trap: emotional numbing. When warnings are repeated, some begin to tune them out. They protect themselves from discomfort by dismissing urgency. But discomfort is often a signal. It is a holy alarm clock shaking you awake. And if you silence the alarm too many times, eventually you stop hearing it altogether. Ask yourself honestly, have you been ignoring something you know requires action? A conversation you have been postponing? A change you have been resisting? A step of obedience you have been rationalizing away? That hesitation is not harmless. It is the very edge of the trap. Because hesitation in a critical hour compounds consequence. March 21st is not about random fate. It is about response. And the hidden trap is believing your response does not matter. It matters more than you realize. Every ignored nudge builds momentum in the wrong direction. Every delayed decision strengthens complacency. And complacency in a season of urgency is spiritually costly. But here is the mercy in this warning. You are still hearing it. You have not fallen fully into the trap. Awareness is the first escape. Recognition is the first defense. Archangel Michael's warning is not to condemn you. It is to shield you. He stands as a protector in moments when unseen battles intensify. And make no mistake, there is a battle over your attention right now. Because whatever has your attention controls your direction. The dividing line of March 21st will expose what you chose to focus on. Did you lean into awareness, or did you drift into distraction? Did you confront what needed confronting, or did you cover it with busyness? The hidden trap thrives on busyness. It keeps you occupied but not aligned, active but not obedient, moving but not progressing. This is the moment to step back and examine your posture. Are you spiritually alert? Or are you spiritually comfortable? Comfort is not always a blessing. Sometimes it is anesthesia. And anesthesia in a critical hour can cost you what cannot be reclaimed. What comes next will reveal how serious this warning truly is. There is more beneath the surface than you can currently see, and the next revelation will make the urgency unmistakable. You will be glad you stayed to understand what is about to be uncovered. Type "I refuse the trap" in the comments if this message is awakening something in you. Lesson code 144 is now activated. As this truth settles into your spirit, understand this. When you respond to a warning like this, you are not just protecting yourself. You are helping light reach others who are still unaware. Every super thanks, every membership, every seed you sow into this mission becomes oil in the lamp, keeping this prophetic light burning for souls who are standing at their own March 21st moment. The Lord says, as you give, it shall be given back to you, pressed down and overflowing. And this is not distant scripture. It is a living promise spoken over your obedience right now. When you act, you declare, "I will not let the warning stop with me." If this message stirred you, step into this stirring. Sow into the harvest of awakened hearts through super thanks. Become a member, or release your seed through the PayPal link in the description or the PayPal QR code on your screen. This is not a donation. It is alignment. As you move, may heaven multiply your provision, shield your household, and establish your steps. Act now and seal your obedience with action. This warning is not general. It is not floating through the air, randomly landing on whoever happens to hear it. It is specific. It is personal. When Archangel Michael releases a warning in a critical hour, it is never vague. He is not the messenger of confusion. He is the defender assigned to moments of high spiritual stakes. And right now, the stakes surrounding your life are higher than you may realize. You may have thought this message was for someone else, someone more spiritual, someone more prepared, someone more involved in visible battles. But the very fact that you are listening proves something deeper. You are involved in a battle you cannot fully see yet, and the warning is reaching you because your position matters. Archangel Michael's role has always been connected to protection and confrontation. He stands at the front lines when divine order is challenged, when timing is critical, when alignment determines outcome. His warning is not casual commentary. It is a signal that something is pressing against your destiny. There is pressure building around your purpose. Not necessarily dramatic pressure, but subtle resistance. Resistance in decisions. Resistance in clarity. Resistance in momentum. You may have noticed that things feel slightly harder than they should. A confusion tried to cloud what once felt certain. That distractions multiply whenever you attempt to focus on what truly matters. This is not coincidence. It is opposition. And opposition increases when time is short. March 21st represents a threshold, and thresholds attract resistance. Why? Because thresholds lead to change, and change disrupts the plans of the adversary. If you step forward aligned, protected, and obedient, certain doors open that cannot be easily shut. But if you hesitate, if you doubt, if you withdraw, the resistance gains ground. Archangel Michael's warning is not only about what is coming. It is about what is already forming. There are decisions circling your life right now. Conversations that must be handled carefully. Opportunities that must be evaluated with discernment. And spiritual attacks that must be recognized before they gain strength. You are not being warned because you are weak. You are being warned because you are positioned. And positioning always attracts attention in the spirit realm. The closer someone is to breakthrough, the stronger the attempt to derail them. The closer someone is to alignment, the more subtle the distraction becomes. This warning is specific to you because there is something at stake in your immediate future. Something that connects to March 21st in a way you may not yet understand. It may not be a dramatic event. It may not look like a public shift. But internally, spiritually, and directionally, it carries weight. There are patterns trying to reattach themselves to you. Old habits, old fears, old compromises. They whisper that nothing needs to change, and the urgency is exaggerated, that you can stay where you are and everything will remain stable. But stability without obedience is fragile. It looks secure until the moment pressure exposes its weakness. Archangel Michael's warning cuts through that illusion. He is signaling that now is not the time to drift. Now is not the time to numb yourself with comfort. Now is not the time to silence conviction. The battle intensifies when destiny approaches fulfillment. There is also protection being extended, but protection responds to awareness. When you recognize the warning and adjust your posture, you activate covering. When you ignore it, you step into unnecessary vulnerability. Not because heaven abandons you, but because alignment shifts. You may feel like something is being demanded of you. A decision, a surrender, a bold step. That feeling is not random anxiety. It is the weight of timing pressing on your spirit. And that pressure is meant to move you, not crush you. The warning is specific because your response must be specific. This is not about vague spiritual improvement. It is about targeted obedience. Ask yourself, what exactly have I been avoiding? Where exactly have I been compromising? What exactly requires immediate clarity before March 21st? The answers will not be hidden from you if you are willing to confront them honestly. There is also encouragement within this warning. Archangel Michael does not stand alone. He stands as part of divine strategy, which means if a warning is issued, support is also present. If a battle is acknowledged, assistance is already positioned. You are not being sent into something unguarded. You are being called to stand alert within protection. But protection does not replace participation. You must engage. You must respond. You must choose alignment over assumption. The days leading to March 21st will test your focus. They will test your discipline. They will test your willingness to confront what is uncomfortable. But those tests are not meant to defeat you. They are meant to refine you. This warning is your advantage. It is advance notice. It is insight before impact. And how you handle this insight will determine how you step across the threshold. The question is not whether something is shifting. It is whether you will shift with it. There are some moments in life that can be repaired. Some mistakes can be corrected. Some delays can be recovered with extra effort and humility. But there are also moments that pass like a door quietly closing behind you. And once that door shuts, it does not reopen in the same way. This is what makes March 21st so weighty. The warning is not grammatic language. It is about irreversible consequence. When we speak about consequences that cannot be reversed, we are not speaking about punishment in the way people often imagine. We are speaking about alignment, timing, windows. There are divine windows that open for a reason and for a season. When they open, they create opportunity for protection, advancement, clarity, and breakthrough. But when they close, the spiritual landscape shifts. What was once easily accessible becomes distant. What once required simple obedience may later require deep recovery. Irreversible does not mean hopeless. It means costly. The cost of ignoring divine timing is not always immediate disaster. Sometimes it is subtle erosion, a missed opportunity that would have accelerated your growth, a relationship that drifts because you postponed a necessary conversation, a door that closes quietly while you were distracted. And the painful part is realizing later that you had been warned. March 21st represents that kind of threshold. The consequences tied to it are not random. They are connected to your readiness. If you ignore the warning, you may find yourself stepping into a season that feels heavier, more resistant, more complicated than it needed to be. Not because heaven turned against you, but because you stepped out of alignment with what was being prepared. Consider how many times in history people recognized too late that a moment had passed. Regret has a distinct feeling. It whispers, "If only I had acted when I had the chance." And regret is heavy because it looks backward and sees clearly what it once dismissed. Right now, you have clarity before regret. You have awareness before consequence. That is mercy. But mercy requires action. The irreversible nature of this warning also speaks to spiritual momentum. When you respond correctly in a critical moment, momentum builds in your favor. Doors align. Protection strengthens. Confidence grows. But when you ignore a critical moment, momentum can begin to move in the opposite direction. It becomes harder to correct course. harder to regain clarity, harder to rebuild what was lost. There are also consequences that ripple beyond you. Your obedience affects more than your personal comfort. It influences your household, your relationships, your future opportunities. Sometimes the consequence of delay is not something you feel immediately, but something you see months later when the opportunity that once stood before you no longer exists. March 21st is approaching with finality. And finality is what makes this serious. Once a date passes, it cannot be revisited. Once a decision is made, it cannot be unmade without impact. You are standing in a narrow corridor of time where adjustment is still possible. But that corridor will not remain open indefinitely. You may feel a weight as you hear this. That weight is not meant to crush you. It is meant to sharpen you. Urgency has a sharpening effect. It strips away excuses. It removes illusions. It forces clarity. The consequences that cannot be reversed are tied to posture. If your posture is casual, the outcome may be complicated. If your posture is alert, the outcome can be protected. The difference is not luck. It is alignment. Ask yourself honestly, what would I regret if I ignored this warning? What conversation would I wish I had initiated? What habit would I wish I had broken? What step would I wish I had taken? The answers to those questions are revealing. They show you exactly where the irreversible consequence might form. There is also a deeper layer. Some spiritual coverings operate within seasons of obedience. When obedience is active, covering is strong. When obedience is delayed, covering adjusts. This does not mean abandonment. It means responsibility increases. And increased responsibility without preparation can feel overwhelming. The warning is clear so that you do not have to experience unnecessary loss. It is being spoken now so that you do not stand later wishing you had listened. March 21st is not simply about a calendar date. It is about a decision point, a moment when time and choice intersect. Once that intersection passes, the direction you chose becomes your path forward. The irreversible consequence is not inevitable. It is avoidable. But only if you take this seriously. Only if you allow the weight of this message to move you from awareness to action. Time is almost gone. That phrase is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to awaken urgency while there is still space to respond. The door is still open, but it is closing. Out of all the voices in the world, out of all the content, conversations, and distractions competing for attention, this message found you. That alone should cause you to pause. It is not random. It is not accidental. It is not the result of mere scrolling or coincidence. When a warning aligns with your ears at a precise moment in time, it reveals something deeper. You were meant to hear it. There are seasons when heaven remains quiet, allowing individuals to move according to their own rhythm. But there are also seasons when heaven intervenes with precision. When a message breaks through noise and lands directly in front of someone at exactly the right hour. This is that kind of moment for you. You might have clicked on this out of curiosity. You might have felt drawn without knowing why. You might even have resisted at first, unsure if it was necessary. But something held you here. Something would not let you scroll past. That pull is not accidental. It is alignment. March 21st is approaching as a spiritual checkpoint, and before checkpoints, instructions are given. The fact that you are hearing those instructions means you are not outside of divine awareness. You are seen. You are known. And you are being given advance notice. There is a difference between coincidence and calling. Coincidence feels random and empty. Calling feels weighty and intentional. This message carries weight. It presses on your thoughts. It lingers after sentences are spoken and challenges your comfort. That is the mark of calling. You were meant to encounter this warning before the threshold arrives, not after, not when consequences begin to unfold. Before. Many people will cross March 21st unaware that anything shifted. They will continue routines, unaware of what they missed. But you have been alerted. Awareness brings responsibility, yes, but it also brings advantage. You are being given insight that allows preparation. Preparation changes outcomes. There is something specific about your season right now. You are not in a random chapter. You are standing in a transitional space. You may have sensed it already. Things feel unsettled. Certain areas of your life feel like they are at a tipping point. Decisions seem heavier. Emotions seem closer to the surface. That is often what transition feels like before it becomes visible. And transition always requires attention. The message found you because you are not meant to drift into the next season blindly. You are meant to cross into it intentionally. But intention requires awareness. It requires humility. It requires willingness to confront what needs adjusting. Sometimes people assume that warnings are signs of failure. They are not. They are signs of value. If something were insignificant, it would not be guarded. If your direction did not matter, it would not be addressed. The fact that Archangel Michael's warning intersects your life means your next steps matter more than you think. You may feel unqualified for such attention. You may think, why would this level of urgency apply to me? But urgency is not reserved for the powerful or the public. It is reserved for the position. And you are positioned. There are unseen intersections forming around your life. Opportunities that may open. Challenges that may arise. Conversations that may shift direction. And how you enter March 21st will influence how you handle what follows. The message found you because you are at a crossroads. Crossroads are subtle. They do not always look dramatic. Sometimes they appear as ordinary days filled with small choices. But small choices in critical seasons create large consequences later. You are not being called to panic. You are being called to posture. Adjust your posture. Straighten your focus. Examine your priorities. If something has been out of alignment, now is the time to correct it. There is also comfort in this realization. You are not alone in this moment. Being warned means being watched over. Being alerted means being considered. Heaven does not release warnings to mock or intimidate. It releases them to protect and position. March 21st will arrive whether someone listens or not. But you are not someone who is uninformed. You are not someone crossing blindly. You have been given clarity before crossing the threshold. Now the responsibility is yours. What will you do with what you have heard? Will you treat it as noise? Or will you treat it as instruction? The message found you for a reason. And reasons tied to divine timing are never small. As March 21st approaches, you may begin to notice something unusual. The pressure increases. Small irritations feel amplified. Distractions multiply at the exact moments you try to focus. Temptations resurface that you thought you had already overcome. Conversations become tense. Doubts whisper louder. This is not random turbulence. This is the spiritual test before the threshold. Every significant shift is preceded by a test. Not to destroy you, but to reveal you. Tests expose what is truly anchored inside you. They reveal whether your obedience is stable or conditional. They show whether your focus can withstand pressure. And right now, the days leading up to March 21st are carrying the weight of examination. You might feel like you are being stretched, like patience is thinning, like emotions are closer to the surface than usual. That stretching is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that something important is near. Before promotion, there is refinement. Before breakthrough, there is resistance. Before alignment, there is confrontation. The spiritual test often comes disguised as ordinary life. A sudden argument, an unexpected delay, an opportunity that looks good but feels slightly off, a wave of discouragement that seems to come from nowhere. These moments are not always dramatic, but they are diagnostic. They reveal whether you react impulsively or respond intentionally. The enemy understands timing. He knows that if he can disrupt you before March 21st, he can weaken your alignment as you cross the threshold. So the pressure is not accidental. It is strategic. He pushes buttons he knows are sensitive. He revisits areas where you once struggled. He magnifies minor inconveniences, hoping you will respond emotionally instead of spiritually. This is the test. Will you remain alert? Will you guard your reactions? Will you refuse to fall into old patterns? It is easy to be disciplined when life feels calm. It is harder when stress increases. But discipline under pressure is what determines outcome. The days before a shift are rarely peaceful. They are often intense, because everything that is not aligned begins to surface. You may also notice increased fatigue, a desire to withdraw, a temptation to numb yourself with distractions. That is part of the test as well. Fatigue makes discernment harder. Distraction makes clarity blur. If you allow exhaustion to dictate your decisions, you risk stepping into March 21st depleted instead of prepared. This is why awareness is crucial. When you recognize that you are in a testing window, you interpret events differently. You pause before reacting. You question sudden impulses. You evaluate decisions with greater care. You do not assume every opportunity is meant for you, and you do not assume every criticism is an attack. You slow down your reactions and sharpen your discernment. There is also an internal test happening. Old fears may try to resurface. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of a change. These fears often intensify right before progress. Because if fear can dominate your thinking, it can paralyze your movement. The test is not about perfection. It is about posture. Are you willing to remain steady when pressure rises? Are you willing to pray before speaking? To reflect before reacting? To choose patience over pride? March 21st is a dividing line, and the test before it is preparing you for what comes after. If you pass the test, you cross the threshold stronger. If you ignore it, you cross the threshold unstable. It is refining happening right now. Refining feels uncomfortable because it removes impurities. It exposes weak foundations. It highlights areas that need correction. But refinement is mercy. It allows adjustment before consequence. Do not interpret the pressure as abandonment. Interpret it as preparation. When you feel resistance, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this revealing in me?" That question changes everything. It turns frustration into insight. It transforms conflict into growth. The spiritual test before March 21st is short, but it is significant. How you handle these days will influence how you step into what follows. Stay alert. Guard your peace. Protect your focus. Evaluate your reactions. The pressure is not proof of defeat. It is proof that something worth protecting is near. There are moments in life when you stand between two doors. One is familiar, predictable, amphibole. The other is unknown, uncertain, demanding. As March 21st approaches, you are standing in that space right now. And what makes this moment so intense is that one door is quietly closing while another is slowly opening. The door that is closing represents a season that has run its course. It may have been comfortable. It may have felt stable. It may even have felt safe. But comfort is not the same as calling. Stability is not the same as growth. And safety is not the same as destiny. When time is almost gone, heaven begins to withdraw grace from what no longer serves your purpose. You may already sense this shift. Things that once worked easy now require effort. Situations that once brought peace now create restlessness. Conversations that once flowed naturally now feel strained. It is often how a closing door feels. It does not slam shut immediately. It tightens gradually. It narrows quietly. The danger is clinging to what is closing because it feels familiar. Familiarity can blind you to timing. You may tell yourself, "This is fine. I can stay here a little longer." But if March 21st is truly a threshold, staying where you are may cost you what is opening ahead. The door that is opening does not look the same as the one closing. It may require courage. It may require discipline. It may require confronting fears you have avoided. But it carries alignment. It carries expansion. It carries the next step in your spiritual progression. Here is the truth. You cannot walk through both doors. You cannot cling to what is ending and fully enter what is beginning. There must be a release before there is a reception. And release feels uncomfortable because it involves surrender. Archangel Michael's warning is not only about avoiding irreversible consequence. It is also about recognizing opportunity. When one door closes, another opens, but only for those who are alert enough to see it. If you are distracted by disappointment over what is ending, you may miss the invitation in front of you. March 21st marks that moment of transition. After that date, what was once optional may become unavailable. The door that is closing will not reopen in the same way, and the door that is opening may not wait for prolonged hesitation. There is mercy in being told ahead of time. You are not being forced through a door without awareness. You are being given the chance to prepare your heart, adjust your mindset, and step forward intentionally. Ask yourself honestly, what am I holding on to that feels comfortable but stagnant? What have I outgrown but refused to release? What fear is keeping me attached to what I know instead of stepping into what is forming? These questions are not meant to condemn you. They are meant to clarify you. Because clarity gives you power to choose wisely. The closing door may represent an old habit, an outdated mindset, a relationship dynamic that has limited your growth, or a pattern of procrastination that has delayed your progress. Whatever it is, its season is ending. And the resistance you feel is not because you are weak. It is because letting go requires trust. The opening door, on the other hand, represents refinement, elevation, and responsibility. It may stretch you. It may require consistency where you once were casual. It may demand focus where you once drifted. But it also carries protection and provision aligned with your next season. Do not mistake discomfort for danger. Sometimes discomfort is the confirmation that you are moving correctly. The closing door will try to pull you back with nostalgia. The opening door will call you forward with purpose. The days before March 21st are sacred. They are a preparation zone. Use them to release what you know cannot go with you. Use them to strengthen your discipline. Use them to quiet distractions and sharpen your discernment. Because once the threshold is crossed, movement accelerates. The door that is closing will be behind you. The door that is opening will require your full attention. There is more to this transition than you can currently see, and what is about to unfold will make this moment of decision even more significant. You will be grateful that you understood the weight of this choice before the shift became permanent. Type "I walk through the right door" in the comments if you are choosing alignment. Blessing code 288 is now activated. As you step toward the door that heaven is opening, understand this: every act of support you release into this mission becomes a key that helps open doors for countless others. The Lord declares, "Give, and it will be given unto you." And this is not distant scripture. It is a living river flowing through obedient hearts right now. When you sow through Super Thanks, membership, or through the PayPal link in the description or the PayPal QR code on your screen, you are not funding content. You are fueling a harvest of awakened souls before their own doors close. I feel led to say this plainly: your seed in this hour is a prophetic step through your own open door. Do not delay the nudge you feel. As you give, may doors of provision swing wide over your life, may protection rest over your household, and may divine acceleration locate you. Act now and seal this transition with obedience. There comes a moment when information is no longer enough, a moment when awareness must turn into action. That moment is now. As March 21st stands directly ahead, your immediate response determines everything. Not your intentions, not your emotions, not your agreement with the message. Your response. You had heard the warning. You have felt the weight. You understand that something is shifting. But understanding without movement changes nothing. The difference between protection and regret in this season will come down to what you do next. Immediate response does not mean reckless action. It means decisive obedience. It means addressing what you already know needs attention. It means confronting what you have postponed. It means refusing to let another day pass in passive agreement with delay. There is power in quick obedience. When you respond quickly to conviction, you interrupt momentum that was forming against you. You break cycles before they solidify. You realign before misalignment becomes consequence. Speed matters in moments like this. Not frantic speed, but intentional movement. Ask yourself plainly, what is the first step I need to take? Not the 10-step plan, not the long-term strategy. The first step. It might be a conversation you have avoided. It might be eliminating a distraction that has been draining your focus. It might be reorganizing priorities that have slowly slipped out of order. It might be admitting something you have been denying. Do not underestimate the power of a single decisive action taken before March 21st. Small corrections now prevent large corrections later. There is also something spiritual that happens when you act immediately. You signal alignment. You demonstrate seriousness. You activate protection through participation. When heaven releases a warning and you respond without hesitation, you position yourself under covering that hesitation would have weakened. Delaying, on the other hand, strengthens resistance. Every hour you justify postponement, resistance gains confidence. They whisper and see, nothing happened yet. But resistance thrives on short-term comfort while ignoring long-term consequence. Immediate response breaks that pattern. You may feel resistance even as you consider acting. Fear may surface. Pride may resist. Comfort may argue. But those reactions reveal exactly why action is necessary. Growth rarely feels convenient. Alignment rarely feels effortless. But obedience always produces clarity. March 21st is not waiting for you to feel ready. It is approaching steadily. And readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision. Decide that you will not cross this threshold unchanged. Decide that you will not carry procrastination into a new season. Decide that you will not ignore what has already been made clear to you. Your immediate response determines whether this warning becomes protection or simply information you once heard. There is also a public dimension to response. When you declare your decision openly, you strengthen your commitment. That is why I want you to engage right now. If you are choosing decisive obedience, like this message as a declaration that you are not ignoring divine timing. Share it with someone who needs this wake-up call before March 21st arrives. Subscribe if you are committed to staying spiritually alert in seasons of urgency. And in the comments, write "I respond now." Let that declaration anchor your action. Engagement is not about algorithms, it is about alignment. When you publicly declare readiness, you reinforce it internally. The next few days are critical. Do not let them pass casually. Review your priorities. Examine your habits. Strengthen your discipline. Guard your peace. Protect your focus. These are not dramatic gestures. They are intentional shifts that reposition you before the threshold. There is also something else you must do. Break agreement with delay. Speak it clearly in your own space. Refuse to entertain the thought that you can handle this later. Later is no longer safe. Later is the language of the trap. Now is the language of alignment. If something needs to end, end it. If something needs to begin, begin it. If something needs to be corrected, correct it. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Act in clarity. What comes after March 21st will reflect what you chose before it. And there is more about this timing that you still need to understand. The final moments before the shift carry an intensity that will either confirm your obedience or expose your hesitation. What is about to be revealed next will prepare you for that final stretch. There is a protection that activates only when you move, a covering that strengthens when you align, a shield that forms not around comfort, but around obedience. As March 21st approaches, this shield becomes more important than ever. Because while warnings expose danger, obedience activates defense. The shield of obedience is not visible, but it is powerful. It does not remove every challenge, but it changes how those challenges affect you. It does not eliminate resistance, but it reduces its authority. When you choose to respond quickly and intentionally to what you have heard, something shifts in the spiritual atmosphere around you. Obedience is agreement with divine timing. It is saying, "I will not argue with what I already know is right." And that agreement creates alignment. Alignment creates covering. Covering creates peace even in urgent seasons. You may still feel pressure in the days leading to March 21st. You may still encounter tension, distractions, and tests. But when you have acted in obedience, those pressures no longer feel threatening. They feel manageable. Because deep inside, you know you responded when it mattered. There is a difference between facing a storm unprepared and facing it having secured what needed securing. The storm may look the same from the outside, but inside, your posture is different. That difference is the shield. Archangel Michael's role in moments like this is deeply connected to protection. But protection does not operate independently of your choices. It partners with them. When you ignore warnings, you step outside of optimal covering. When you respond to warnings, you step into strengthened defense. This shield is not about earning safety. It is about aligning with it. It is about standing where protection is already positioned. Imagine a boundary drawn for your benefit. Obedience keeps you within it. Delay nudges you toward its edge. Some people misunderstand obedience as restriction. They see it as limiting freedom. But in urgent seasons, obedience is liberation. It frees you from unnecessary complication. It frees you from regret. It frees you from avoidable loss. You may already sense a shift if you have responded decisively. A subtle peace. A clarity replacing confusion. A steadiness where anxiety once tried to grow. That is evidence of alignment. That is the shield forming. His shield also strengthens your discernment. When you are obedient, distractions become more obvious. Temptations lose some of their appeal. False opportunities reveal their cracks more quickly. You are not as easily pulled off course. And this matters because the days surrounding March 21st may carry intensity. Not chaos, but clarity. Things that were hidden may become visible. Truths that were blurred may sharpen. And if you are shielded by obedience, you will not be shaken by what is revealed. There is also a generational aspect to obedience. Your alignment today influences the atmosphere around those connected to you. When you respond correctly in critical moments, you create stability not only for yourself, but for others who are impacted by your decisions. But shielded obedience does not mean perfection. It means the posture. It means you are willing to correct quickly when you sense misalignment. You are willing to humble yourself if necessary. You are willing to prioritize what truly matters. Peace in urgent seasons is not accidental. It is cultivated. It is the result of knowing you did not ignore the warning. It is the result of stepping forward instead of standing still. As March 21st draws closer, hold firmly to the choices you have made. Do not second-guess obedience. Do not let doubt creep back in. Once you have aligned, remain aligned. The enemy often tries one final wave of confusion after you have acted correctly. He hopes to cause you to reverse your decision. But stability is part of the shield. Stand firm. There is strength available to you in this moment. Not loud strength, but steady strength. The kind that holds its ground quietly. The kind that does not panic when tension rises. The shield of obedience surrounds those who take warning seriously. It guards their steps. It stabilizes their direction. It protects their momentum. March 21st is not simply about avoiding consequence. It is about crossing a threshold protected. And if you have responded, you are not crossing unguarded. There is always a final hour before a shift. A space in time where everything feels suspended. Not fully what it was, and not yet what it will become. That is where you are now. The final hour before March 21st carries a unique intensity. It is quiet but heavy, subtle but significant. And how you move in this final stretch will confirm everything. The final hour is not about panic. It is about precision. When a threshold is seconds away, distractions often increase. The noise becomes louder. Old temptations resurface one last time. Doubt tries to make a final argument. It is as if resistance knows its window is closing and makes one more attempt to pull you backward. This is the moment to remain steady. If you have responded in obedience, this final hour will test your consistency. The enemy does not always attack with something new. Sometimes he revisits what all this worked before. He reminds you of comfort you left behind. He whispers questions about whether the warning was exaggerated. He attempts to plant uncertainty where clarity had taken root. But this is not the time to reevaluate what you already confirmed. This is the time to stand firm in it. The atmosphere before a divine shift can feel strangely quiet. You may expect dramatic signs, loud confirmations, or visible changes. But often, the most powerful shifts happen in stillness. Beneath the surface, alignment is locking into place. Doors are finalizing their positions. Outcomes are stabilizing according to the posture you chose. In this final hour, guard your mind carefully. What you entertain mentally now can influence how you step across the threshold. Do not replay fears. Do not imagine worst-case scenarios. Do not magnify small inconveniences into large threats. Instead, focus on what you have already secured through obedience. Silence can also be deceptive. When nothing obvious seems to be happening, it is easy to assume that nothing was ever at stake. But silence before a shift is often preparation. Think of the stillness before dawn. It feels like night is continuing, yet light is seconds away. March 21st is that dawn line. You may feel anticipation building, a quiet awareness that something is concluding and something is beginning. That awareness is not imagination. It is sensitivity. And sensitivity is a gift in moments like this. The final hour is also a moment of surrender. Not fearful surrender, but confident surrender. You have done what you can do. You have adjusted. You have responded. Now you release the outcome into divine order. There is peace in knowing you did not ignore the warning. There is confidence in knowing you did not remain passive. If you had delayed, this hour would feel different. It would feel anxious, unsettled, regretful. But if you acted, it feels grounded. Even if uncertainty remains about what exactly will shift, your internal foundation is steady. Do not allow last-minute distractions to steal your focus. Sometimes trivial arguments, unexpected invitations, or sudden opportunities appear right before a threshold. Evaluate them carefully. Not everything that appears urgent deserves your attention. In this hour, your energy is valuable. Guard it. There is also something sacred about this final stretch. You are witnessing the end of a season that shaped you. Even if it had challenges, it prepared you. Even if it had delays, it refined you. Honor that preparation. Acknowledge that growth occurred. And step forward without bitterness about what is closing. The final hour is not about looking backward. It is about stepping forward with clarity. March 21st is not just a date. It is a marker, a dividing line between what was and what will be. And in this final moment before it arrives, your greatest strength is steadiness. Steadiness in thought. Steadiness in action. Steadiness in faith. The shift does not need your panic. It needs your posture. Very soon, the threshold will be crossed. And what follows will reflect the preparation of these last days. You are not entering it blindly. You are entering it aware. The final hour is here. March 21st has stood before you like a warning, like a line drawn across time. But now, as you approach it with awareness and obedience, it no longer stands as a threat. It stands as a concision. And there is a powerful difference between crossing a threshold unprepared and crossing it aligned. You were warned because you were valued. You were alerted because your direction matters. And now, as this season concludes and the shift takes place, there is divine assurance for those who responded. Obedience never leaves you empty. It may require surrender, but it always produces stability. It may demand courage, but it always releases clarity. If you have taken this message seriously, if you corrected what needed correcting, released what needed releasing, and stepped forward where you once hesitated, then you are not stepping into March 21st exposed. You are stepping into it covered. There is peace that follows obedience, not because every detail is revealed, but because your conscience is clear. That peace is confirmation. It is the quiet evidence that you aligned when it mattered most. You may not see dramatic fireworks. You may not hear thunder in the sky, but you will notice something subtle and powerful, a shift in your spirit, a steadiness, a sense that you are positioned correctly. That is divine assurance. The consequences that once loomed as warnings no longer define your path. Why? Because warnings are conditional. They are meant to redirect. And when redirection happens, the outcome changes. This is the mercy of divine timing. It does not warn you to trap you. It warns you to transform you. As you cross this threshold, understand that a new layer of responsibility may also unfold. Growth always brings greater capacity, but you are not stepping into it alone. The same protection that alerted you continues with you. The same covering that guarded you before the shift remains after it. There may still be challenges in the days ahead. Every new season carries its own assignments, but you are entering them equipped. You are entering them aware. You are entering them strengthened by the decisions you made before this date arrived. Take a moment to reflect on how far you have come even in these last days. The conversations you handled differently. The distractions you refused. The discipline you strengthened. The courage you showed. That was not accidental growth. That was intentional alignment. And alignment produces fruit. You may soon see small confirmations, doors opening smoothly, clarity replacing confusion, peace stabilizing situations that once felt tense. Do not overlook these signs. They are reminders that obedience carries reward. For those who felt fear at the beginning of this message, let that fear dissolve now. And tone shifts from warning to assurance. The urgency that once pressed you now settles into confidence. You responded. You moved. You chose alignment over delay. There is honor in that choice. March 21st is no longer something to dread. It is something you crossed intentionally. An intentional crossing builds spiritual authority. It strengthens your discernment for future seasons. It sharpens your awareness for future thresholds. You have learned something powerful. Time matters. Response matters. Posture matters. Carry that awareness forward. Let it shape how you approach every future decision. Do not return to casual delay. Do not slip back into passive hesitation. The growth you gained here is meant to continue. And know this. Divine assurance is not temporary. It settles on those who take warning seriously. It rests on those who respond quickly. It follows those who choose obedience even when it feels uncomfortable. If you sense peace right now, that is not imagination. That is confirmation. Type "I crossed in alignment" in the comments if you stepped forward with obedience. Blessing code 911 is now activated. As this message closes, understand that what was spoken here is part of a larger mission to awaken, to warn, and to protect souls before their own irreversible moments arrive. The Lord declares, "Those who sow in tears shall reap in joy," and this is a living promise over every seed planted into this work. When you give through Super Thanks, become a member, or release your offering through the PayPal link in the description or the PayPal QR code on your screen, you are extending this warning to someone who is standing at their own critical threshold. I feel this strongly. Your act of giving in this hour is not small. It is prophetic. It declares that you will not keep light to yourself. As you sow, may open heavens respond, may provision locate you, and may protection surround everything connected to you. Step forward and seal this season with generosity. Act now. A shift has come, and you crossed it aware, aligned, and assured.